She stole her sister's visa to marry a rich man abroad. But the plane took her to the wrong man. Instead, everyone in the quiet neighborhood of Surulere believed that Amara Okafor was the lucky daughter. She was beautiful, soft-spoken, and the pride of her parents. But inside the same house lived someone who believed that luck had made a terrible mistake: her younger sister, Lydia Okafor. Lydia had always felt invisible. While Amara was praised for her kindness and intelligence, Lydia was known for something else entirely: her ambition. She wanted more from life, much more, and she was tired of watching her sister receive every blessing meant for both of them. The opportunity that finally broke Lydia's patience came in the form of a man who lived thousands of miles away. His name was Daniel Wright. Daniel was a wealthy businessman living in London. He had met Amara online through a Christian international group where people shared testimonies and faith-based discussions. At first, it was just friendly conversation, but over time their chats grew longer, their video calls became frequent. Daniel admired Amara's humility and strong faith. Amara admired Daniel's sincerity and generosity. Within 8 months, Daniel proposed, not in person, but during a video call that made Amara cry so much that Lydia, watching secretly from the door, felt something dark twist inside her chest. Daniel had arranged everything: a visa, a flight ticket to London, and a promise of marriage the moment she arrived. Amara's parents were nervous about their daughter traveling so far for love, but Daniel spoke to them respectfully through video calls. He even spoke a few Igbo greetings he had learned just to impress them. Slowly, they accepted. The wedding would take place in London. It felt like a dream, but to Lydia, it felt like theft. Why should Amara always be the chosen one? Why should she be the one flying to London to marry a wealthy man while Lydia remained in Nigeria struggling to survive? The jealousy slowly turned into a dangerous idea, an idea that grew stronger every day, until one night Lydia finally spoke the thought out loud to herself. What if I go instead? At first, even she was shocked by the thought, but the more she considered it, the more it began to feel possible. After all, Daniel had never met Amara in person, only through video calls, and Lydia and Amara looked very similar. They were sisters, after all. If Lydia changed her hairstyle, dressed like Amara, and kept conversations short, maybe Daniel would never notice. And once she arrived in London and married him, the truth wouldn't matter anymore. Her heart began beating faster. It was risky, but the reward was enormous: a wealthy husband, a new life abroad, everything she had ever wanted. The plan formed quickly. Amara's visa documents arrived 2 weeks later. Their parents celebrated. Friends visited the house to congratulate her. Everyone was happy, except Lydia. But she hid her jealousy behind a fake smile. 2 nights before the flight, Amara fell asleep early after spending hours packing her suitcase. Lydia stood quietly at the bedroom door, watching, listening to her sister's soft breathing. Her heart pounded like a drum. This was the moment. Slowly, Lydia entered the room. She picked up the passport, the visa, the flight ticket. Her hands trembled. She hesitated for a moment, but then she whispered quietly to herself, "Life rewards the brave." And she walked out of the room. The next morning, Amara woke up to chaos. Her documents were gone. Her parents searched the house in panic. Amara cried, convinced she had lost everything, but Lydia had already left hours earlier. She was at the airport, her heart racing with fear and excitement as she held her sister's passport. Everything seemed to be working perfectly. No one questioned her, not at the airport check-in, not at security, not even at the boarding gate. Within hours, Lydia found herself sitting on a plane heading to London. A smile slowly appeared on her face. She had done it. She had stolen her sister's destiny. As the plane flew high above the clouds, Lydia imagined the life waiting for her: luxury, money, comfort, and a handsome, wealthy husband. But fate has a strange sense of humor, because thousands of miles away, at the airport in London, the man waiting to receive her was not Daniel Wright, not even close. The airplane landed in London just as the early morning sun began to stretch across the sky. Lydia pressed her face lightly against the window as the plane taxied across the runway. Her heart pounded with excitement. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "London, a new life, a rich husband, everything she had ever dreamed of." Passengers began standing and reaching for their luggage. Lydia carefully checked the passport in her bag again. Amara Okafor. The name on the passport still made her nervous, but everything had gone smoothly so far. No one had questioned her. No one had stopped her. Maybe destiny truly wanted her to have this life. After passing through immigration and collecting her suitcase, Lydia walked into the arrival hall. Her eyes searched the crowd. Some people were holding welcome signs. Others were hugging family members who had come to receive them. Then she saw it. A white cardboard sign with bold black letters. Amara Okafor. Lydia's heart jumped. Standing behind the sign was a tall man wearing a dark jacket. He looked calm and confident, scanning the arriving passengers. But the moment Lydia saw his face, something felt wrong. This man didn't look anything like Daniel Wright. Daniel was blonde, clean-shaven, and had the polished appearance of a wealthy businessman. But the man holding the sign had deep brown skin, short curly hair, and a quiet, serious expression. He looked African, maybe even Nigerian. Lydia stopped walking. Her heart began beating faster. Did Daniel send someone else? It made sense. A wealthy man might send a driver or assistant to pick her up. Trying to stay confident, Lydia walked toward him. The man noticed her immediately. "Amara?" he asked. Lydia forced a smile. "Yes." The man smiled warmly. "Welcome to London. My name is Marcus Cole." Lydia blinked. Marcus? That wasn't Daniel's name. Before she could ask any questions, Marcus reached for her suitcase. "You must be tired from the long flight," he said kindly. "Let's get you home." Lydia hesitated. "Home?" "Yes," Marcus replied casually. "Daniel told me everything. He said you might feel nervous traveling this far." Her mind spun. So Marcus knows Daniel. That explained it. Relief slowly replaced her fear. Marcus must be Daniel's friend. Perhaps Daniel was busy with work or preparing a surprise. She decided not to ask too many questions yet. "Thank you," Lydia said. Marcus led her outside to the parking area. A sleek black car waited nearby. As they drove through the streets of London, Lydia stared out the window in awe. Tall buildings, beautiful parks, endless traffic. Everything looked like something from a movie. Marcus drove calmly, occasionally glancing at her through the rearview mirror. "You've been very quiet," he said after a while. Lydia laughed softly. "I'm just taking everything in." Marcus nodded. "That's normal. London can feel overwhelming at first." After nearly 40 minutes, the car turned into a quiet neighborhood filled with elegant houses. Marcus parked in front of a beautiful modern home with large windows and a small garden. Lydia's eyes widened. "Daniel lives here?" Marcus frowned slightly. "Daniel?" Lydia froze. Her stomach dropped. "Yes, Daniel Wright," she said slowly. Marcus stared at her, confused. "Who is Daniel Wright?" The air inside the car suddenly felt heavy. Lydia's heart began racing. "What do you mean?" she asked nervously. "He's the man I'm supposed to marry." Marcus blinked several times. "Marry?" Silence filled the car. Then Marcus pulled out his phone. "Wait," he said slowly. "Let me check something." He opened a message thread and scrolled. Then he turned the phone toward Lydia. The message on the screen read, "Marcus, please pick up my fiancée Amara Okafor from the airport tomorrow morning. I'm still overseas for work, but she'll stay at the house until I return. Thank you, brother." The sender's name appeared at the top, Michael Cole. Marcus looked back at Lydia. "My brother Michael is the one who asked me to pick you up." Lydia felt her entire body go cold. "Your brother?" "Yes," Marcus said carefully. "He's the one engaged to Amara." Lydia's mind began spinning wildly. Michael? Not Daniel? What was happening? Her heart pounded as a terrifying thought crept into her mind. Had she stolen her sister's visa? For the wrong man? Marcus studied her face carefully. "You look like you just saw a ghost," he said slowly. Lydia forced a weak smile. "No, I'm just tired." Marcus didn't look convinced. but he didn't press further. "Let's go inside," he said gently. "You should rest." As Lydia stepped out of the car and looked at the house again, fear slowly replaced her excitement. Nothing was going according to plan anymore. She had stolen her sister's identity, flown across the world, and now she wasn't even meeting the man she thought she was marrying. And the most terrifying part, the real fiancé, Michael Cole, would be arriving very soon. The house was even more beautiful on the inside. Soft gray walls, polished wooden floors, and large windows that allowed sunlight to pour into every corner of the living room. But Lydia barely noticed any of it. Her mind was racing. She sat stiffly on the couch while Marcus placed her suitcase near the stairs. "Your room is upstairs," he said politely. "You can rest there. My brother will be back tomorrow evening." Lydia's heart skipped. Tomorrow. That meant she had less than 24 hours before the real fiancé arrived. Before the man who believed he was engaged to Amara came face to face with her. "Thank you," she said quietly. Marcus nodded, but didn't move immediately. He studied her face for a moment. "You seem different from how Michael described you." Lydia's stomach tightened. "Different?" she asked carefully. Marcus leaned back against a chair. "He said you were very talkative during your calls," he said, "but you've barely spoken since you arrived." Lydia forced a small laugh. "I guess I'm just shy in person," Marcus shrugged. "Maybe." He didn't seem fully convinced, but he dropped the subject. "Get some rest," he said. "The kitchen is downstairs if you need anything." After Marcus left the room, Lydia quickly rushed upstairs. Once she closed the bedroom door behind her, she collapsed onto the bed. Her heart pounded violently. "What have I done?" she whispered. The plan had been simple in her head: fly to London, meet Daniel, marry him, start a new life. But everything had gone wrong. The man waiting for her wasn't Daniel. Instead, there was Michael Cole, a man she had never heard of. And he was arriving tomorrow. Panic slowly crept into her chest. Should she run? Should she confess? Should she pretend to be Amara and hope for the best? Her thoughts were interrupted by a notification sound from her phone. She quickly grabbed it. A message. Her heart jumped when she saw the sender's name, Daniel Wright. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Hi, Amara. I've been trying to reach you since yesterday. Are you already on your way?" Lydia stared at the screen in shock. So Daniel still believed Amara was coming to London. Her fingers moved quickly. "Yes, I just arrived." A few seconds later, Daniel replied, "That's great. I'm so sorry I couldn't receive you personally. Work kept me in the United States longer than expected, but I'll fly to London soon so we can finally meet." Lydia felt dizzy. United States? Then where was Michael in all of this? She typed quickly. "I thought you said someone would pick me up," Daniel replied almost immediately. "Yes, my business partner Michael's brother should pick you up from the airport. His name is Marcus. Did you meet him?" Lydia's eyes widened. "Business partner?" Her chest tightened. "Yes, I met him," she replied. Daniel continued typing. "Good. Michael owns the house you'll be staying in. I trust him like a brother. He helped arrange everything for us." Lydia felt the room spinning. So Michael wasn't the fiancé. He was Daniel's business partner. And Lydia had just walked into his house pretending to be someone else. Before she could reply again, another message arrived. "By the way, Michael might come home tomorrow. I told him you were arriving. Don't worry, he's a good man." Lydia dropped the phone onto the bed. Her breathing grew heavier. Everything was becoming more complicated. Now she had to pretend to be Amara in front of two men who knew her. One of them had spoken to the real Amara many times. The other was about to meet her for the first time. And if either of them discovered the truth, she could lose everything, or worse. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Lydia froze. "Amara?" Marcus called from outside. Her heart jumped. "Yes?" "Dinner is ready." Lydia opened the door slowly and followed him downstairs. The dining table was simple but elegant. Marcus placed a plate of food in front of her. They ate quietly for a few minutes. Then, Marcus suddenly asked a question that made Lydia's blood run cold. "So, how long have you and Daniel known each other?" Lydia nearly choked on her food. "A while," she replied quickly. Marcus nodded slowly. He talks about you often. Lydia forced a smile. Really? Yes? Marcus leaned back slightly, studying her again. But something still feels strange. Lydia's fingers tightened around her fork. Strange, Marcus sighed. I watched some of your video calls with Daniel before. Her heart stopped. And the woman I saw on those calls, Marcus paused, doesn't look exactly like you. The room fell silent. Lydia's heart pounded loudly in her chest. Marcus wasn't smiling anymore. He was staring at her carefully, waiting, watching, trying to understand. And for the first time since arriving in London, Lydia realized her lie was beginning to crack. The silence at the dining table felt unbearable. Marcus's eyes remained fixed on Lydia. And the woman I saw in those video calls, he continued slowly, doesn't look exactly like you. Lydia's throat went dry. Her mind searched desperately for an excuse. Maybe the camera made me look different, she said weakly. Marcus didn't respond immediately. He leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. Then he sighed. I'm not accusing you of anything, he said calmly, but something feels off. Lydia forced a smile. Travel can change someone's appearance. Marcus nodded slowly, though the suspicion in his eyes didn't disappear. Well, he said finally, standing up, get some rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. Lydia watched him walk away. Her heart was racing. She knew one thing for certain now. Her secret wouldn't survive much longer. That night, Lydia barely slept. Every sound in the house made her jump. Every thought in her head ended the same way. What will happen when the truth comes out? Morning arrived slowly. Marcus left early for work but informed her that his brother Michael would arrive later in the afternoon. The hours felt endless. Lydia walked nervously around the house, trying to think of an escape plan. Maybe she could leave before Michael arrived. Maybe she could return to Nigeria and pretend none of this ever happened. But where would she get the money? How would she explain everything? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Her heart stopped. She looked out the window. A tall man stepped out of the car. He looked confident, calm, and well-dressed. This had to be Michael Cole. Lydia felt her chest tighten as he walked toward the house. The door opened moments later. Michael stepped inside, placing his suitcase near the door. Then he saw her. A warm smile spread across his face. You must be Amara, he said kindly. Lydia forced a smile. Yes. Michael shook his head in amazement. Daniel talks about you all the time, he said. I'm glad you arrived safely. Lydia nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. Thank you. Michael walked into the living room and sat down. You must be excited, he continued. Daniel should be arriving in London in a few days. Lydia's stomach twisted. She nodded again. But before the conversation could continue, the front door opened. Marcus walked in. His eyes moved from Michael to Lydia. Something about the tension in the room made Michael pause. What's going on? He asked. Marcus crossed his arms. I think we should ask her a few questions first. Lydia's heart began pounding. Michael frowned. Questions about what? Marcus looked directly at Lydia. About who she really is. The room fell silent. Michael looked confused. What do you mean? Marcus spoke calmly. Last night I told you something felt strange, he said to Lydia, and this morning I decided to check something. He pulled out his phone. I found Daniel's old video call recording. Marcus turned the screen toward Michael. On the screen was a video of Daniel laughing with a woman who looked very similar to Lydia, but not exactly the same. Michael's eyes widened. That's not her, Marcus nodded. Exactly. The air in the room felt heavy. Michael slowly turned toward Lydia. Who are you? Lydia's hands began shaking. Her chest tightened as tears filled her eyes. For a moment she considered lying again, but the weight of everything she had done finally crushed her courage. I'm not Amara, she whispered. Michael's face hardened. Then who are you? Lydia lowered her head. I'm her sister. The silence that followed felt endless. Marcus rubbed his forehead in disbelief. You stole your sister's identity? Tears rolled down Lydia's cheeks. "I just wanted a better life," she cried. "I was tired of watching her get every opportunity." Michael stood up slowly. "And you thought stealing her life was the answer?" Lydia couldn't respond. At that exact moment, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Then he looked up. "It's Daniel," he said quietly. Michael answered the call and placed it on speaker. "Michael," Daniel's voice said cheerfully, "did Amara arrive safely?" Michael looked at Lydia. "Yes," he replied slowly. "But Daniel, we have a serious problem." Within minutes, Daniel understood everything: the betrayal, the stolen visa, the lie. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Daniel finally spoke. "I don't want any trouble," he said calmly. "Just send her back home." Lydia felt her heart break. Her dream was over. 2 weeks later, Lydia stepped off a plane in Nigeria, the same airport she had left with so much excitement. But this time, she carried nothing but regret. Amara was waiting for her. When Lydia saw her sister, tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry," Lydia whispered. Amara stared at her quietly. Then she sighed. "You should have told me how you felt," she said softly. "We're sisters." Lydia lowered her head in shame. Months later, Amara eventually traveled to London herself, and this time, she truly met Daniel. As for Lydia, she finally learned a painful truth. Destiny cannot be stolen, and sometimes the life meant for someone else will never fit you, no matter how hard you try to wear. For more stories like this, kindly subscribe to The Story Lounge. Like, comment, and turn on notification bell.